Hey, Atlanta Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins on Atlanta Sports Unlimited channel. I'm your host, Dave Holcomb, with my co-host, Tom Pollen, and Chris Smitherman's back from his honeymoon. It's great to have Chris back behind the scenes.
Yep.
Got another great show for you today. 2 games coming up before our next show for the Atlanta Falcons, so a lot to break down. And they just played maybe the most exciting game for them this season, I would say for sure, and maybe one of the most exciting games in the league so far this year.
Yeah, I watched the replay of that game. That was incredible. There was some great plays made by both teams. And Falcons got fortunate that Eddie Pinheiro is the place kicker for the Carolina Panthers. But still, a lot of solid plays for on both sides. Pick six and that DJ Moore catch was just incredible. To tie it up, and so it was a wild weekend. It was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. The back and forth in the fourth quarter was a little bit of everything. Had a defensive score for the Falcons, which was great to see. The Falcons defense left a little bit left a little to be desired. Other than that defensive score, I would say, especially in the second half,
yes,
especially on that Hail Mary at the end of the game. But the Falcons come away with the victory. They're back at 4-4 with another chance to go above 500 for the first time since 2017. I'm a broken record. I really would like to stop saying this. That it's I think it's like the 12th or 13th time they're trying to go above 500 for the first time.
Oh, we were saying it constantly last season.
So, yeah, they've been 500, even 4-4, 3-3, 2-2, a lot. This year and last year, and they got to break through this and finally get 2 wins in a row to get to 500 and then get above 500 for the first time in a while. So we're going to talk Falcons a lot at the top of the show. We also have the NFL trade deadline passed this week. We want to talk about the players that were moved, and we're going to take a little bit different spin on it and kind of talk about the fantasy football implications of the guys that were moved this week, and what are the implications of the teammates they left behind, filling in their roles that they leave, and then their new teammates, how their arrival on their new teams will impact those players.
Right. That was one of the craziest trade deadlines I've seen out of the NFL. I don't know, maybe the craziest.
It was a record for most trades in a trade deadline day.
Because they just don't do that. The NFL doesn't do that. But, a lot more teams are concentrating on winning this season. If they see an open window for them this season, they will try and make that move. I think a lot of teams are coming into that mentality that, if we got the chance, let's make the roll for it, and let's roll the dice and see what we can do. They saw what the trades did for the Los Angeles Rams last year, getting Von Miller. So and then they got Odell Beckham. So I think teams are starting to maybe not value draft picks as much and trying to get players, contending teams trying to get players that are going to make a difference for them this season.
Yeah, and we could have a conversation about that. The trend of valuing draft picks less, going for it more, making deals or moves as a GM that are only going to help you this year, as opposed to old school line of thinking in the NFL was always like build through the draft and maybe sign some free agents to fill holes, but never like trading for like a guy in a contract year, like in baseball you would do. But that's more common now. And that'd be a good conversation to have a little bit later. Is that a good thing for the NFL? I think overall it is, but I don't think it's all positive like, everybody maybe wants to make it out to be.
Well, it draws attention to the league. You get a league that, really doesn't need any help drawing attention. Yeah. But it's an extra facet of excitement because now you got more to talk about. Who won? Who lost?
Yeah.
Does this team really think they are capable of making the Super Bowl? And did they think that, were they delusional when they, in their thoughts, thinking that they were going to have a shot at making the Super Bowl this year? Or did they actually have that window where it's possible? So, as I say, you can only win the game in front of you. You can only win the season in front of you. Sometimes if you feel you have the team to do it, why not go for it? Let's try for it.
Yeah. I'll save my reaction to that for later on in the show. It's a good tease. It's a good tease. But overall, I would agree with you that when you got a chance to win a championship, you go for it. You go for it.
Right.
So and then the second half of our show, we'll get to our normal segments that we've had the last several weeks during the regular season. I got a couple love-loathe things from week 8, looking ahead to week 9. We've got your picks against the spread, and then we have prize picks.
Yep.
Which is a great segue into our sponsor. Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app with our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Use that promo code ASU to get that 100% match, and we'll have some picks, some entries that you can use to get started tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we'll have plenty. I got you all set up.
All right, good. I've got 3 myself too.
Super. Can't wait to hear.
And maybe, we got away from this the last couple of weeks. Maybe we'll have time to make our Super Bowl pick. We haven't done that the last few weeks.
That's true.
But I mean, honestly, mine isn't going to change much.
No, neither are mine. Not the way things have been going so far this season.
Right. Yeah. But let's talk about the Falcons. A lot to dissect again from that game on Sunday. We touched upon some of the big topics. The pick 6 was really nice, but that defense not so good on the Hail Mary. I can't believe they let DJ Moore get by them on that play. They held DJ Moore to only 2 catches in the first 3 quarters. So you thought that the Falcons defense was doing well without AJ Terrell and all those other pieces in the secondary. And then just the floodgates opened up for Carolina and that passing attack in the fourth quarter, scoring a bunch of points. And credit Marcus Mariota, you didn't think, I think before last week, that he'd be able to run, it wasn't exactly a 2-minute drill, but a 4-minute offense needing a touchdown. He answered Carolina's score, and that really should have been the end of the game, at least when the defense got the first stop in under 2 minutes, and offense gets the ball back in field goal range already. You need a first down, and that's the game. Of course, we all know what happens after that. They do kick a field goal, but only go up by 6. Hail Mary, penalty, missed extra point, missed field goal in overtime, and then Falcons ended up finally winning in overtime with a field goal.
Yeah, again, DJ Moore, that's just, I mean, that's first rule of being, especially a free safety. You cannot let a wide receiver get past you. If you're playing deep, you just cannot let him get past you. That's just rule number 1. And it was ridiculous to see that they did it. And you can, and especially against DJ Moore, a guy who, if the ball's anywhere near him, he's going to come down with it. I mean, he's one of the most talented receivers in the league. So
I want to add to your point that not only is it rule number 1 not to let DJ Moore get by you, it's the only rule, because there's no field goal that they can get to tie the game in that situation. You're down by 6. So what? Let them dink and dunk down the sideline for completed pass to get out of bounds. But there was 12 seconds left, I think, when they scored the touchdown. There was 12 seconds left. So there was 20 left when they started that Hail Mary play. The only thing you have to do is not let any of Carolina's receivers get by you down the field.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of, you don't want any doubles to lose the game. You play your outfield back against the fence. So, it's the same thing. You get the free safety, and basically you tell him wherever Moore goes, you better be in front of it. And he got outran. It was ridiculous. He got outran. Moore outran him, took a bad angle, and you just cannot have that. And that's the problem with the Falcons defense is, they'll make a couple of good plays, and next thing you know, they're getting gashed down the field. And they were fortunate they were facing PJ Moore. PJ Moore.
PJ Walker.
PJ Walker.
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk too fast, I'm telling you. No, they were fortunate that they were playing PJ Walker.
I mean, PJ Walker looked pretty good against them. 8.8 yards per attempt. Helped out by that 62-yard touchdown.
62-yard pass. But other than that, I did not see a lot of accuracy, a lot of great. He made a couple of pinpoint throws, but not as many as you would normally see out of a seasoned NFL quarterback. And Moore's been around a little while now, and you would expect to see him being a little bit more accurate. He wasn't. Did start connecting in the fourth quarter, but as I say, the Falcons were fortunate. They were playing PJ Walker, and that, some of their secondary mistakes and some of their issues on the offensive line didn't cost them. Because they got to fix some of that this week.
Brian has a few good comments here, right? He's agreeing with us that, the Falcons secondary being not letting the guy by them on the Hail Mary was the only thing they really needed to do there. And he says the team Marlowe got his ass shipped out right away. Yeah, he was one of the guys that got traded on trade deadline day. Right. And then Brian says, what do you expect? 84 million in dead cap. It's going to be far from perfect, but we won the game. That's true. Absolutely. Right. The Falcons found a way to win, helped out by a penalty, helped out by Pinheiro, missed extra point and missed field goal. That was really a chip shot field goal.
Oh, that field goal should have been an automatic.
Yeah, absolutely should have been automatic. But Brian's right. The Falcons found a way to win the game, and they're in first place in the NFC South. It was their first division win. We talked about how important it was going to be to get that under their belts, to not go 0-3 to start in the NFC South this season. So 1-2 in the division, 4-4 in sole possession of first place. Yeah. With 2 games coming up in the next 5 days. You got Carolina again on the road, which is an interesting matchup because it's a division game. You're so familiar with each other, and you just played as well. So that's going to be interesting, but it's a place that Atlanta has had success lately. Yes. Against the Panthers. But let's focus first on the Chargers. You talked about the Falcons defense making the point that, PJ Walker left passes on the table because of his inaccuracy. Right. Well, Justin Herbert's coming to town, and he's probably not going to leave as much on the table as PJ Walker. No, does that kind of scare you as a Falcon follower that this could get rough against a guy like Justin Herbert?
Well, it does, yeah. If Falcons are foreign, Chargers have not played as well as you would think this season with Justin Herbert at quarterback. The best thing for the Falcons this week is Keenan Allen is not going to play. He's out.
That was going to be my next point. How big of a loss is that? The Chargers have been playing without Keenan Allen for a while now, at least not a completely healthy Keenan Allen. He hasn't been healthy since week 1. And I'm going to rant about Allen's injury here in a minute, but
I can't wait.
So yeah, how does that impact the tomorrow's game as well? The matchup. The Falcons aren't going to have AJ Terrell, so is that just a straight up wash? No top cornerback, no top wide receiver.
Actually, the Chargers are out 2 wide receivers because Mike Williams is not going to play either.
Yes, you're right. So, Brian bringing that up too.
Yeah, so they're not going to see Mike Williams either. The Falcons should be solid in their secondary, which was why it surprised me that they kind of let themselves get shredded in the fourth quarter last week. But with D. Alford, I think is going to, and Isaiah Oliver. I think they can put together a rotation that's going to be okay in the secondary. I worry about the safety play because the safety play's been bad all year. And but I think, yeah, it does. It's going to be difficult for Justin Herbert to move the ball this week. They're going to have to rely on Austin Eckler quite a bit.
Okay, so you think it will be more difficult maybe for the Chargers and the Panthers to move the ball?
Yes.
Okay. Because of the injuries.
Because of the injuries, yeah. No, if Allen and Williams were playing this weekend, I would not have a lot of hopes for the Falcons' chances against the Chargers.
Yeah.
But I think they got a good shot. I don't think the Chargers have been playing up to their capabilities this year.
I agree. Yeah.
They've been a real disappointment. They're 22nd in my statistical power rankings so far this season. And, you know, they playing decent defense, especially against the pass. They're ninth in net passing yards per attempt. Let's see, passer rating differential, they're 17th. Defensive passer rating, they're 18th. So, you know, there's possibilities there. They really have not played up to the potential that I saw for them, you know, heading into this season. But the Falcons, defensive net passing yards per attempt for this season, they're 31st. Defensive passer rating, they're 30th. So, you know, this is where it's going to come down to for the Falcons for the entire season is, can they tighten up this pass coverage? I thought they were putting pressure on Walker last week. Weren't getting home, but were kind of making some noise in the pocket, which I think led to PJ Walker making some of those inaccurate passes that he made last week. But still, against Herbert, you're going to have to get home. Somehow they're going to have to find a way to get home against him. And keep the pressure on him, especially without its two top wideouts.
Yeah, I was looking at Next Gen Stats this morning, and when I don't have the exact stat, but basically the summary, the takeaway point that I took away from it was that the Falcons, this, you could probably say this for anybody, but when they blitz, their pass defense has been a lot better than when they only rush four guys.
Right.
So I'm curious to see if they're going to blitz Justin Herbert a little bit more than maybe they did PJ Walker last week.
I think they're going to have to, unfortunately, because
and they'll be helped out by those injuries to Allen and Williams, that they should be able to trust their cornerbacks and defensive backs in one-on-one coverage against the third, fourth,
right,
fifth best wide receivers from the Chargers, and then send more guys after Justin Herbert. That could be an advantage the Falcons defense could utilize.
Yeah, well, you're looking at Josh Palmer, DeAndre Carter, Michael Bandy, guys who've made some, Palmer and Carter have been fine complementary receivers, but they're going to have to step up this week.
Yeah.
And, can they do that? Gerald Everett, they haven't been using in the passing game as much. Will Gerald Everett make a impact this week at tight end? So that's a lot of the things you're looking at, and being able to shut down Eckler. Panthers running back last week.
Oh,
Deontay Foreman.
Yeah.
God. He was running hard. He was running right through the Falcons defense.
Yeah.
And Eckler can do the same thing. So, you're not getting it easier on your defense against the running game this week, facing facing Eckler. You've got to shut him down. If they can shut him down, then with the other Chargers injuries, they can win this game. They do have. I think they have a chance to win this game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Oh, and they're going to have to watch Eckler in the passing game too. You mentioned him in the running game, right, but he's one of the best pass catching backs in the league. And if you're going to be blitzing, which we both kind of think Falcons will consistently blitz, you got to watch out for those, running back screens.
Right. Especially, because the Falcons are probably going to have to do some more blitzing this week. Just to try to get home, just to try and keep pressure on Herbert. And, you're playing. I don't know if I'm ready to say Herbert's one of the top quarterbacks in the league yet. I'm not as sold on him yet as a lot of people seem to be. But, he's come through quite a bit for them. I think the coaching has kind of let down the Chargers a little bit this season so far.
I really like Herbert, but he's not really living up to the expectations this year yet. I mean, we still got half a season to go, and he's been dealing with injuries at his wide receiver. And remember, I mean, we haven't really talked about this. The media, I'm saying not just us, like the national media hasn't talked about his rib injury the last few weeks. So you got to assume he's healthy. But he got that nasty hit early on in the season, week 2. Is that impacting him at all in his play? I guess maybe we'll find out after the season. But, I would agree with you that it's not it hasn't been as good as I thought it would, I guess is what I would say, from Herbert. I had high expectations for him now coming into the season.
So did I. But he also had a new offensive coordinator coming into the season too, Joe Lombardi.
Yeah.
So that was something that everybody was questioning. How would he adjust to Lombardi coming in as his offensive coordinator over, under Brandon Staley as head coach? It seems to be hit or miss so far for Justin Herbert.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Phillip Rivers. Unfortunately for Charger fans, they're not going to want to hear this, but Rivers was a Hall of Fame quarterback. He had all these great pieces around him. Their defense, a couple of years, was ranked number 1. I think they had the number 1 defense and the number 1 offense one season, and they missed the playoffs somehow because special teams was so bad, and coaching and situationally they were awful. There's just something missing from the Chargers, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is because they have talent, and Herbert is at the top of that list of talent they have, but it's not come all together yet.
No, and that's the frustrating thing. I know for Chargers fans, it's a frustrating thing watching this team, from afar. Khalil Mack has kind of rebounded for them on defense. So, they do have a tough defense, but it's a team that never seems to be able to make that one play to close out a game. And it's been like that for a while. And I know San Diego fans have got to be, just have to be driving them crazy. Anthony Lynn, it always seemed like under Anthony Lynn as the head coach, that there would always be one mistake, one red zone mistake, one final 5 minutes of the game where they would give the game away. And they're still doing that. And if the Falcons keep this close, I think the Falcons can find a way to pull this out.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's get to some of our commenters. Tony agrees with us that the Falcons have to put a lot of pressure and hit Justin Herbert tomorrow. Brian expects a big day from the tight end Gerald Everett. He's an Atlanta native. So we'll see if that gives him any extra motivation going into the game tomorrow. Todd says, guys, we had a meltdown. We benefited from a meltdown from the Carolina kicker. Otherwise, we lose that game, made critical mistakes, and that interception from Mariota in overtime. Yeah, Todd, you're absolutely right. There were a lot of mistakes from Atlanta. We mentioned them, but Atlanta still won. And that's, I think, the important takeaway, that They're still 4-4. They're still in first place. And you learn. It's much more fun learning from your mistakes while you win, right?
Yes.
Than learning from mistakes and you lost.
Yes.
But learning while you win is a great thing.
Yeah, I know it is. So, but we've said all year, the one thing about this Falcons team is they have a lot of heart. Mm-hmm. They don't get down on themselves. They don't get discouraged. And I think you could give Arthur Smith a lot of credit for that. Smith has got this team playing hard. Things may not work out for them all the time. They make mistakes, but they don't hold their heads down and take it with them through the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It's over. Let's go back and get it. Fortunate thing for the Falcons is they didn't fall far behind this last game. So they were able to recover from some of the things that they did. Right. They had that chance.
Yeah. That's true. That's it. I don't see them falling behind the Chargers like they did against the Bengals because, they couldn't cover Jamar Chase and the other weapons the Bengals have. And because of the injuries, the Chargers don't have those weapons. So
right, exactly.
That will help a lot, those two guys being out. But to put a wrap on our Falcons discussion, we'll still get to comments as they come in, though. If you have more to say, we'll get those on air.
Oh, absolutely.
As much as I think
Joey Bosa is out, that's going to be a big thing I think that's going to help the Falcons running game. So definitely, I'm glad. I just wanted to get that comment in real quick.
Yeah, sure. As much as I want the Falcons to go over 500, break through that barrier tomorrow, and perhaps win again on Thursday, and that would be 3 in a row, get to a nice 6-4 record. I still think this team is going to be sitting pretty if they split over this next week, and especially if they split and they beat Carolina again, because obviously the division win is more important. A conference win is more important if the Falcons are in a wild card race at the end of the season. The Chargers game, it's kind of like icing on the cake, I think, if they get that win. Based on where they are in the division race, right?
Right.
And other teams that are coming up. The Falcons have Washington at the end of the month. They have Chicago coming up. They have Pittsburgh. Some very winnable games. And if they don't end up beating the Chargers, I don't think it's the end of the world, because I think you could win 3-4 in a row or 3 out of 4 with the schedule they've got coming up.
Yeah.
But it would just be an extra, again, icing on the cake if they're able to be 6-4 with all of those winnable games also coming up.
And we could also stop mentioning the fact that the Falcons haven't been above 500 since 2000.
That would be nice. It would be nice to stop having to mention that. Yeah.
Right. The Falcons are, the Chargers are favored by 3 points. So bookmakers and bettors around the NFL and the NFL world are expecting a close game here. So, and I think they're going to get it. I think we're going to have another exciting game. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to see how Atlanta reacts against a winning team, against a team coming in that's supposed to be fairly good, maybe not playing up to its potential, but still has a winning record. And I want to see how they react to this.
Yeah. They have this could propel them to, like turning point wins, turning points in the season. I think that's our headline for today's show. I think this is a turning point. This could be a real positive turning point. I don't think it's if they lose both of these games coming up, then this will be a negative turning point. I don't really see that happening. I think they're going to split win at least one of these games.
I think the Falcons are better this year.
But if they can win both, then that could really propel them to a nice run in the second half of the season here.
Yeah, it really could, because Tampa Bay's imploding.
Right.
The Saints are having to rely on the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, and as Andy Dalton will play some solid football for you, but you're not going to win because of him. And then Carolina is just falling apart all season. So, and now they're without, they traded Christian McCaffrey. So it's going to be rough for Carolina. I don't think Carolina is going to be a factor at all this season, but this division's wide open. I know we keep saying that, but it is wide open. Because you got your competition in this division all have their own problems, and it's going to be rough to you can win both these games. You really have a lockdown on this division.
Yeah, I think so. You really are the favorite. You become the favorite if you go 2-0 this week.
I agree.
So keep sending in your comments about the Falcons. We can get to them if you have any other discussion points to add. You can also follow us on Twitter at DM Holcomb, at TJ Pollen. But we want to talk some fantasy today and discuss how some of these trades that happen at the deadline impact your fantasy teams. And, it should be a fun conversation because it was a really fun trade deadline days. We talked about at the beginning of the show, a record-setting number of trades happened at the trade deadline this year. And a lot of guys were on the move. And not all of them are going to be, guys that are on your fantasy team because they're defending players that were traded too. But a lot of guys were moved at the deadline that will impact your fantasy team, whether it's you have that player or the player that's replacing that player, or maybe a player that is going to lose some snaps or targets or carries because a new player is arriving on his team. So what stuck out to you? What was the big trade, at least from a fantasy perspective? What was the big trade for you on Tuesday?
TJ Hawkinson going from the Lions to the Vikings, because now Hawkinson becomes a much more dangerous receiving target with mixed with the other receivers that Minnesota has.
Yeah,
with Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. So Hawkinson is going to get better opportunities in the pass game. It's tough for me to say that Cousins would be a better quarterback than Goff, but I think around him, Hawkinson is going to get some better looks, because you always had to cover Hawkinson in Detroit because he was they didn't have many weapons there. So, now he's got other guys to take some of the attention off of him.
That would have been where I went too if you asked me the same question. What stuck out to you from a fantasy perspective? Who's the big guy that was on the move? Hawkinson, even though he's maybe not as emphasized as of a position, tight end in fantasy. He was having a pretty nice season in Detroit, but hadn't scored a touchdown since week 4. I would suspect that he's got a chance to score a touchdown every single week. He's not going to score every week, but he's going to get red zone targets because of the other guys that you're talking about that opposing defenses have to cover now with him on the Minnesota offense.
Yeah, huge pickup for Minnesota because they didn't have a tight end they could rely on. So
Irv Smith, who did some nice things, went on IR this week. So it was just, it actually has really no impact on anybody other than TJ Hawkinson, to be honest, because Minnesota only traded draft picks for him. So they didn't send an offensive player back to Detroit that's going to see a deduction in opportunities. And the tight end that maybe you had in Minnesota previously is hurt. So it's really all just positive in this situation with Hawkinson going to Minnesota.
Now, I want to hear what you have to say. Okay, the Jets got James Robinson. I've always liked Robinson as a running back, but I don't know if it's just the fact that he was on Jacksonville this year or whether, maybe his injuries have caught up to him, because I've always liked Robinson as a running back, but I don't think he's had the kind of season this year that I expected to see out of James Robinson.
Yeah, his yards per carry average is down from 4.7 last year to 4.2. So that's a pretty big reduction. And then in his first game with the Jets, he only had 5 carries, so it's a small sample, but just 17 yards. So even under that low average that he's had for the season. I was kind of disappointed by this trade, to be honest. It might be because I've got Michael Carter on my fantasy team, and very obvious that as soon as Michael Carter gets an opportunity with Breece Hall getting hurt,
yes,
they immediately trade for a running back, and you just kind of like you go like this if you're a Carter fan, because Carter's not again, he's in a timeshare and is not going to have an opportunity to really prove what he can do. I felt like Carter had a good rookie season. It was only 5-6 games last year he played, and I know Hall is might be a generational running back that you don't pass on. He's really made a difference with the Jets already as a rookie.
Yes, he has.
But Carter looked good, and for him to not even get an opportunity now with Hall out is disappointing.
Yeah, I agree, but I think the Jets felt that they needed an extra running back. I think they felt that they wanted a second back to take some of the carries, and Hall and Carter have been splitting carries this year. I mean, it's not going to be any different for Carter now. With Robinson playing rough and still getting used to the offense, you still might see more Michael Carter than you did before Hall got injured.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah.
So,
and this is positive for ETN. Brian brings that up. He has ETN, so the James Robinson trade is big for him. Yeah, that's absolutely true. That this is a big vote of confidence from Jaguars' perspective. Trading away Robinson, it's all on ETN, and that's exciting to see what he can do with his
last 3 games. Travis Etienne's been playing really good football. He's been a solid weapon for the Jaguars. I think basically Robinson became expendable because Etienne has been playing so well that the Jaguars figure, well, we can get some draft picks. We'll continue our build, and we have our running back.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian I'm going to push back a little on what Brian's saying. I understand what you're saying, that he split carries and opportunities even in college with Javonte Williams, who's in Denver now, and unfortunately he's hurt. But Carter still averaged 16 touches, I think, as a senior at North Carolina. So again, you're right, Brian. His role is not going to change, but you stash guys like Carter on your roster in case there's an injury, and then an injury happens. You're like, here's his chance. This is why I got this guy on my team. And then that opportunity is not going to come because Robinson has arrived. That's the disappointment.
Now, here's one that impacts both our teams. What do you think? Do you think Chase Claypool gets rostered more now that he is away from Trubisky and
I was waiting for you to ask me this.
I knew you were. I wasn't going to disappoint you.
Are you happy about this trade? What was your reaction to it?
I know
it's kind of making a buy now, win now move, sort of. They didn't have. It's actually gonna if Claypool keeps coming through, he matures. And I think that was the problem that everybody in Pittsburgh had with him. Yeah,
is he would do these, make these stupid little mistakes.
Yeah,
and frustrate the hell out of you. He'd make some great catches, but then he would frustrate you. And I think Tomlin just got tired of trying to deal with him.
I think the Steelers too. They gave a big contract to Deontay Johnson, which doesn't look real good right now, but that's already done. He's eaten up salary cap. They really like George Pickens, and they should, because George Pickens looks like the real deal. He looks already better than Claypool.
Yes.
And they have him under contract longer. So Claypool's kind of the odd man out. He's kind of been the odd man out on the offense with how poor it's been. Deontay Johnson gets his share. Pickens gets jump balls down the sideline, and then Claypool gets these stupid end-around plays. That's the Steelers' offense. And occasionally Claypool has gotten a deep route, an opportunity to make a play, and this year he really hasn't. And that has been the frustration. my take on this trade is I think it's either going to be really, really great for the Steelers or really, really great for the Bears. I don't think it's anything in between because Claypool has the talent to be a star. And if the Bears use him the right way and his head is on straight, he could become their number one wide receiver. And he will be a great pickup for any fantasy owner.
Right.
Because he's coming out of nowhere, becoming a top target for a young quarterback.
Well, see, and my point was going to be the fact that Fields, he is fourth in the league in intended areas. So when Fields lets go of the ball, he does tend to like to go downfield with it.
Yeah.
And the Bears only had Darnell Mooney. Mooney has been a solid receiver for the Bears. He's not number one.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see Claypool running more go routes with the Bears, at least early until he gets the offense under control.
Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking maybe this is a guy you want to roster now because he's going to be getting a chance deep. He's got a quarterback who can throw deep, and he may not get a lot of, intermediate, medium plays across the middle, down the sideline, but he can outrace a defender downfield. He'll take a cornerback downfield for you. So I think it's going to be an interesting pickup for the Bears. I can't wait to see how this. I don't expect to see Claypool on the field a lot, but I do expect to see him going downfield when he is on the field.
Trying to look up real quick to see how many leagues he's available in.
Yeah. Fascinating, because I wouldn't think he would have been rostered as much with Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky as his quarterbacks.
He's rostered in 72.9% of leagues.
Wow. That's a lot more than I would have expected.
So,
but he is a talented receiver, and you kind of hope that at some point the Steelers make use of that talent. I guarantee you the Bears are going to make use of that talent. Yeah. They got nobody better.
Yeah.
Darnell Mooney is the only other one that they have who can play. Ross St. Brown has been up and down. This is it. The Bears gave up Damiere Byrd to the Falcons, and Damiere Byrd's been playing pretty nice for the Falcons.
Yeah.
Made a difference last week. So as that game was going on, I was thinking, man, why didn't the Bears keep Damiere Byrd? Why the hell did they let him get away?
Right. The last trade I want to talk about is Nyheim Hines to Buffalo. And in that trade, Buffalo sent a draft pick and Zach Moss to Indianapolis. I think if you got Zach Moss and you're counting on him for fantasy production, you're in a really deep league.
Yes.
Because Zach Moss hasn't done a whole lot. I don't think he's going to do a whole lot in Indianapolis. The Colts have, even without Jonathan Taylor this week and Nyheim Hines being shipped out, still got quite a collection of backs that are going to be available to them tomorrow. Philip Lindsay is on their practice squad, and he's been promoted for tomorrow. So I don't think I think Moss is going to be behind. He's going to be on the active roster, but when Lindsay's active, even though he's on the practice squad, I think Lindsay's going to get more opportunities. But for Nyheim Hines, I like his addition for Buffalo. I do wonder how much he's going to cut into a Devin Singletary or a James Cook. Maybe not necessarily a Singletary. I think Singletary's role is probably going to stay the same. But if you were counting on the rookie James Cook coming on and helping your team in November and in the fantasy playoffs, it's probably not going to happen now, which is disappointing because Cook had a really nice game against the Packers. He's been coming on strong. But if you have him in a redraft league, I don't think he's going to make much of an impact. Dynasty league, yeah, of course you're going to hold on to him, but I don't think he's going to make much of an impact now with Hines there.
Okay.
One other thing to note, though, Hines he does return punts.
Yeah.
So perhaps Hines will be more of a special teams guy than a running back.
Might have more impact on their game there.
Yeah. And maybe we'll see because Cook is playing really well. Maybe Cook will stay as a regular guy in the running back rotation. But it's pretty crowded there now with Singletary, Hines, and Cook all playing really well. And that leads me to my first thing that I loved from week 8, Tom, is the Buffalo running game. We've been talking about for years how Buffalo needs to get a running game. Buffalo needs to get a running game.
Yes.
They have over 100 yards rushing in every game this season. And I think it was really on display against Green Bay Packers Sunday night. And this was even before the Naeem Hines trade. But they were just ripping apart the Packers' run defense. Got 153 rushing yards in that game. That was a season high. I know Josh Allen inflates those running stats because he's got a lot of rushing yards. He's still second on the team in rushing. But Devin Singletary is averaging 4.5 yards per carry. James Cook has 5.5 yards per carry. Zach Moss, in a small sample, have 5.4 yards per carry with the Bills. So this team is legit in terms of all of the different things they can do to beat you, especially on offense.
Right. And that's one of the problems I've always had with the Bills. One of the reasons why I didn't think they were quite there yet, because they didn't have the running attack. It's hard to close out games if you can't run the ball. If you're always passing the ball, 3 and outs can kill you. And as good as the Bills' receivers have been, you need to be able to run the ball to shorten the game, to shorten the third quarter, shorten the fourth quarter. It's a heck of a thing now. The Bills are just they're a powerhouse. And I think I like your projection of Hines being giving the Buffalo Bills more impact in return game. Because if there was any weakness, I guess you could say it was there, but man, it's not as much of a weakness anymore. This is a team that doesn't have many weaknesses.
They really don't. They really don't. And it's kind of, I don't expect Philadelphia to go undefeated. Philadelphia's going to lose at some point.
They're going to lose.
But looking at this Bills team every week, it's like, how do they have a loss? And that was the game that Tua came back and he shouldn't have. And if Tua doesn't play when he shouldn't have been playing, maybe they don't have a loss.
Right.
But yeah, Buffalo has just been incredible with you summed it up perfectly. They have no weaknesses.
No, because they're as strong on defense as they are on offense.
Yeah.
It's a devastating team.
And I just have one thing I loathe. I was going to make it the Philadelphia Phillies jerseys in Game 5. Why are you wearing alternative jerseys in a World Series game? I don't care if you wore powder blue jerseys on Thursday and it's Thursday again. Unless you're undefeated on Thursdays in those powder blue jerseys, you don't wear them in the World Series. But anyway, I've got a football thing that I loathe, and it's the Keenan Allen injury. Have you ever heard of anybody getting hurt, suffering a setback during a bye week? He had a bye. He should have been sitting on his couch not doing anything. Why is he hurt again? I don't understand this at all. Right. Part of my anger is I do have Keenan Allen on my dynasty team. I'm counting on him to finally get me back to the championship and actually win. I've been in the championship like 5 times and been runner-up 5 times. And I need Keenan Allen for wide receiver 2 production. And I don't think it's going to come. Nope. We were waiting for the bye week for him to get healthy. And the whole narrative in October was like, well, the bye week's coming up, so we shouldn't push it. The bye week's coming up, so we shouldn't push it. Well, then did you push it during the bye week and got hurt again? I don't understand.
Yeah, was it one of those at-home type injuries? You just never know. But yeah, it's crazy. I love Keenan Allen.
I do too.
He's an incredible talent, but he can never stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially as he's gotten older, it's been harder for him to stay healthy. But yeah, he's an incredible talent. I really have loved to have him. I've had him on my dynasty team since the beginning. I think he might be my last original player from that draft from my dynasty team in 2016. Julio Jones I had until last year.
Right.
And I think Keenan Allen might be the last guy.
It's crazy.
But it's been hard for him to stay healthy. And it's very frustrating that the time that he should have been getting healthy, it got worse.
It got worse.
It got worse. Hard to explain, if you ask me. But we're running short on time. We have some picks that we want to get to. Tom, you've got some picks against the spread, and then we're going to have some prize picks for you.
We got it. Nostradamus is coming out strong this week. 2-0-1 last week with my favorites. So, things are starting to settle down as far as the way my statistics are breaking down games. But first game I like this weekend is taking the Patriots. They're given 5.5. They're at home against the Indianapolis Colts. And one of those reasons, yes, Jonathan Taylor is out.
Yeah.
But another reason is Belichick is hell on rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And he's going to have some things.
Technically, Ellender is a second-year quarterback.
Yeah, well, yeah, technically. But this is his first extended starting experience.
Right, yeah.
And he's just hell against him. And I think it's going to be a rough game for the Colts. I think, being at home, the Patriots have a bad taste in their mouths because the Bears kicked their asses in New England last time they played at home. So
you had to bring that up again.
Hey, what can I say? It was one of my high points of my season.
I understand having to bring it up.
You know why? Because Bill Belichick was set to become the second winningest head coach in history. Right. ESPN had scads of tape all prepared, had spent all week making presentations, doing graphics about how Bill Belichick broke past George Halas against Halas's team. They didn't get to use a damn thing.
Well, I have a question about that because he only passed him if you count postseason wins. Does it bother you that they're counting postseason wins for Belichick when George Halas, they had did they have one playoff game?
That was it. Unless you tied for your division title. You had an Eastern Division, Western Division. If you tied for your division title, you played a play-in game. You play a game against your opponent.
And they've been doing that with Tom Brady's record too, with passing yards. They said, I saw somewhere, I forget where it was. They said Tom Brady is going to go over 100,000 passing yards, and that's true, but that's counting the playoffs.
Yeah, and it doesn't count.
Yeah, I didn't think we were counting postseason stats or wins with career totals, but is that a new thing, or have I missed the boat on that? That's always the way it's been. What's going on?
It's not. It is a new thing.
Okay.
And as far as missing the boat on it, just be thankful that you missed the boat.
Continue to have my eyes closed and let the boat sail by.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's asinine. It's ridiculous. The playoffs are a different animal. You play a lot more playoff games now than you ever did. Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, a lot of these playoff records, they count, but they count as postseason. You cannot count them as a regular season win.
And I get that the Patriots played a lot more playoff games than anybody because they kept winning playoff games. I understand that. But Tom Brady, I think, has played or started 32, 35 playoff games. That's 2 whole seasons.
Right.
That he's padded his stats with, if you're going to count postseason stats in terms of passing yards, passing touchdowns, and all that stuff. But anyway, we're sidetracked.
Yeah, no.
And I think that pick, Patriots over the Colts, is a great pick. I think that's a slam dunk.
Thank you. Vikings -3 against the Washington Commanders. I think the Vikings are going to play well. I think the Commanders somehow came back and won last week.
Against the Colts.
Yeah, against the Colts. I don't know how they did it, but that hasn't been a good team this year, and I think the Commanders are ripe for picking against the Vikings with their new tight end, TJ Hawkinson.
Right.
Monday night, I'm taking the Ravens -2.5 against the Saints in New Orleans. I don't know why the Saints are only getting 2.5 points. This game should be a lot wider margin. The Ravens just strengthened their defense. They brought in Roquan Smith from the Bears.
Yeah.
They do have another linebacker now. I think they're strong on offense. I don't see this being a close game. I mean, maybe people think that because the Saints are at home or because Andy Dalton's been playing fairly well, but they're also going to be missing Michael Thomas. Thomas is out for the season again. So, you know,
that Saints defense played so well against the Raiders, shutting them out, but I think that's going to prove to be an aberration at the end of the year.
So do I.
Not that the Raiders are like this great team or anything, but anytime you shut a team out, it's surprising in 2022. So I don't see the Saints repeating that against the Ravens.
Neither do I.
Or the rest of the season, for that matter.
And that's why I think the Ravens, that spread is so, is a lot tighter than I thought it would be. Because everybody is overreacting to what the Saints did last week. They're not as good as that. Don't overreact to what they did. The Raiders aren't good to begin with. Derek Carr, I think, is on his last legs with the Raiders.
Guy looks like he has 9 lives.
Yeah, I think Derek Carr is finally going to be on his way out with the Raiders because, especially after this season, with Josh McDaniel going in as head coach and just completely coming apart. That offense has nothing. So don't overreact to what the Saints did last week. Take the Ravens -2.5. Let's do the prize picks, Dave.
Yeah. So I've got some prize picks for you. I'm pulling them up here. I'm going to that Falcons game for 2 of my picks. Okay. I am going to pick Justin Herbert to go over 280.5 passing yards. He's gone over that total 4 times this season. Then he has another game where he was at 279, right at the pretty much right at the over-under that Prize Picks has for this week. We talked about, the injuries they have at wide receiver, but I think he's going to find Everett and Eckler enough that he's going to have more than 281 or more passing yards. I'm also going over 31.5 rushing yards for Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is involved in the running game again for the Atlanta Falcons. He's been over 31 rushing yards, or at least at 31 rushing yards, 4 straight games. He's been over 31 rushing yards in 3 of those 4 games. So that's another really interesting spread. Their Prize Picks is smart. They look at the totals for these players, and they set it right at a number where they've been most of the time. And I think one time I was right at a number, and he needed like another yard and for me to win. But
frustrating.
Yeah, that is frustrating. But I'm going with over from Herbert, over for Mariota. And then the last one I got is Tom Brady, 39 passing attempts. I'm going over with that. Brady's been throwing a lot. Tampa Bay is the most lopsided offense in terms of pass to run ratio. They run fewer times than any other team in the league. And Brady has had more than 39 passing attempts in 6 straight weeks. So I think that's actually the safest pick of the 3 that I'm giving you. That
sounds good. I like it. What I have 3 different picks. So you're going to have a variety to go for here. I'm taking Travis Etienne over 77.5 yards. It was 77.5 the last time I looked at it. I think it still is. But I think he hits that. He's hit the mark over the last 3 games. He's played 80% of snaps the last 2 weeks and have gone over 100+ yards. I think he's going to be with Trevor Lawrence struggling in the passing game. I think Etienne's going to be carrying the ball quite a bit. So take him on the over. DeAndre Hopkins above 6.5 receptions against the Seahawks. I don't think the Cardinals are going to win that game, but Kyler Murray loves DeAndre Hopkins. And now that he's back, I think he's going to get over that 6.5 receptions. Justin Fields, rushing yards, 49.5. The Bears have been using Justin Fields quite a bit as far as run design plays out of the pocket. Run draws and run options. I think Fields has passed 49.5 yards the last 4 games. So as the Bears offense has been improving, Justin Fields has been carrying the ball more, and I think he's going to break the 49.5 yards against Miami, because Miami struggles against the run terribly too.
So we got 6 different picks for you. If you haven't already signed up for Prize Picks, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. And we hope that you can win some money this week with our picks or some of your other picks that you might go with. Let us know if you win some money with our picks, or if you use our promo code and you double your money again after signing up. You can tweet at us at TJ Pollen at DM Holcomb to let us know how you do, or let us know next week on the show.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how you guys do on the Prize Picks. So let's get involved and see if you can outpick Dave and I.
Last thing I want to mention today, it is November, so that means no shaving for me. And there is a cause behind No Shave November other than just being lazy. The money that would go towards shaving cream, razors, any kind of shaving product that you would use on your face normally, I encourage you to donate towards a cancer cause like prostate cancer. That's traditionally what No Shave November actually is about, not just being a lazy guy. And one website that I want to give a shout out to that is a nonprofit that encourages No Shave November and to donate the money that you would spend on shaving products to cancer causes is no-shave.org. So check out that website, and that's one of just many great places that you can donate the money that would go towards your shaving products this month.
Yeah, it's a great cause. I've lost, good friends. I lost an uncle to cancer, and I think it's definitely it's a fight that is ongoing, and it's a great way to use that money from No Shave November. So, really advocate for it.
Pantera says No Shave November equals deer season. That's true. It's hunting season as well for everybody. But yeah, it's a great time to, grow some facial hair, keeps you warm in cold climates, and, don't have to spend the money on the razor and the shaving cream this month. And then that can go towards a great cause.
Yep. I agree.
Thanks everybody for joining our show. We'll be back next Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Yep. Have a great week, everyone.